Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Madfest and Lumen for having me today. Great to see you all here for my talk on why media and creative working together will drive better attention for your brand. I've got the catchy title of Head of Connections Planning, Media and Insights at Specsavers. So, today I'm going to speak around how brands can harness the power of media and creative, and ultimately this will lead to better attention for your marketing campaigns. And just before I get started, what gives me the authority to stand here in front of you today and talk about this topic? I've spent 14 years both in creative agencies and media agencies, including Rainey Kelly Campbell Rolfe, Grey, Dentsu Aegis, working with major clients like Vodafone, the Home Office, Lloyd's TSB, McVitie's, to name but a few, delivering major campaign programs. I've then now for 10 years been a client, 7 years at PepsiCo managing brands like Walker's, Pepsi and 7-Up, and now 2.5 years at Specsavers. So, before we get going, let's just start a little bit at the beginning with a little story and history around media and creative in the world of advertising and marketing. Since the beginning of time, agencies were largely full service, which meant they offered both creative and media services to brands. It didn't matter how many agency people were involved or how much work the agency did. A 15% commission was standard, and this covered everything from research, creative, strategy, and media buying. The commission model was attributed by business historians to Philadelphia agency NWA & Sons and goes as far back as 1874. It made the agency the agent of the advertiser, not the media owner. Francis Eyre, the founder, also created the world's first full-service agency at the tender age of 20, offering both media and creative services together. However, during the late 80s and early 90s, this began to change, with the arrival of holding companies and the consolidation of the ad industry, driven by the likes of Martin Sorrell, as he created WPP. Creative and media felt they'd be better off alone. The buying power of media allowed large media companies to emerge, and creative agencies were often content to dream up big ideas on their own. From a purely financial perspective, you can see why media and creative agencies went their separate ways, leading to the increased commoditization that we see in the media landscape today. But just take note, clients also had a hand in this, as they believed they could get lower prices if media buying was consolidated into a few specialist agencies, separate from those providing the creative. If it was purely down to client and brand benefit, full-service agencies and creative and media sitting together would still be together today. So hopefully that gives you a little context as to what's happened in the industry. However, this isn't a talk about how the agency landscape's evolved. If you want more on that, read Michael Farmer's excellent book, Madison Avenue Manslaughter, or Ken Alutta's Frenemies. I'm now going to take you on a journey as to why creative needs media and media needs creative, and how ultimately this drives better attention for brands. So why is a creative and media approach important? How audiences consume media and therefore advertising has changed forever. From the 60s to the 90s, you had very captive audiences and only 4 channels to deal with: print, TV, radio, and out of home. Just think about the UK for a moment. Until 1982, we only had 4 TV channels. From the early 2000s, you had interactive audiences that were maybe a little more inclined to engage with brands on platforms like MySpace. Cut to now, where you've got thousands of channels and people blocking or subscribing to avoid ads. Today, people are exposed to between 5,000 and 10,000 ads per day versus 500 to 1,600 in 1970. Just think about that for a moment. 5,000 to 10,000 ads a day. That's just ads. People have got lives to lead, right? They've got families to look after. They've got lots going on. You've got to work much harder to get your message across, as the viewing audience is much more fragmented, and there's never been so much content available. A quick trawl of campaign suggests this is becoming a hot topic now, with lots of debate around the separation of media and creative. Rory Sutherland states that separating media and creative agencies in the 90s was a bizarre and weirdly dumb move. Speaking to campaigns, Sutherland added, separating media from creative is like taking a Sudoku puzzle, cutting it into 9 pieces, and asking people to solve it. My good friend, the copywriter Paul Burke, describes hiving off as media as strange as agencies hiding off account management. That's coming from a creative. And only last month at Campaign's Media 360 event in Brighton, Kate Narborough, the brand director of Nomad Foods, said there was a conscious recoupling currently taking place between media and creative agencies. So what happens if brands don't embrace media and creative working together? Well, no creative and media connectivity could create the wrong kind of attention for your brand. You could end up with an ad for The Walking Dead next to a funeral director's, or this Wusthof knife ad next to a murder story. And how can you solve problems if you don't have everyone in the same room? This potentially fatal example, showing a small QR code on an ad on the opposite side of a subway line, is a great illustration of how media and creative teams need to come together to solve problems and create better communications. I think if people were together in the room, this situation wouldn't have happened. But clearly, these examples are a touch trivial. And ultimately, what's going to happen is that your brand will become less visible, less distinctive, less memorable, less attention-grabbing, and less disruptive. So what are the benefits for brands of creative and media thinking and bringing them closer together? I believe that bringing creative and media together can make ordinary touch points extraordinary. If we just look at this example here to illustrate the point. On the left, you've got an example of siloed creative and media thinking. A fairly standard execution, it does the job, but it really doesn't stand out and probably could work a lot harder. On the right, this is what you get from integrated creative and media thinking, a distinctive asset that's memorable and interrupting to the audience. I also believe that context can add value to the message. And by this, I don't just mean financial value, but also how you see and remember that message overall. Seeing this painting by Cézanne in a gallery will be a totally different experience to the $20 t-shirt you've brought from eBay. The medium is the message as well. These were the iconic words that Marshall McLuhan used in 1964 to stress the importance of media in communication. It's not just what you say, it's where and how you say it. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Advertising revealed that creative media advertising was much better at strengthening brand associations than traditional media placements. Just look at the difference in standout from our execution on the right to this one from Boots on the left. I also believe that divergent thinking drives greater impact. This campaign for Sainsbury's revolutionized supermarket advertising. Before this, supermarket ads were black and white press ads just crammed high to low with lots of products. This work broke the mold as each ad would feature just one product and would have large double-page spreads in the likes of the Sunday Times and Cosmopolitan, not the usual place for supermarket product ads. This was an impactful but expensive option for the client. Just look more closely though for a moment, and what you have is one black and white single page ad on the left and one full color page ad on the right, making the client's budget go further and the execution more attention grabbing. This clever idea was by Paul Gummer, the media planner, working with David Abbott, the creative, in one agency, AMV. Different perspectives bringing outstanding results. And then if we just take a look at the numbers too, the combined creative and media levers cumulatively drive the biggest outcome. So this data here from Nielsen will show that on top of creative, the media levers such as reach, recency, targeting, and context will have the biggest impact on your brand, driving 85% of the sales contribution. Get the teams responsible for these metrics working together. It's also often the media team who are on the hook for the ROI of the campaign. Yet you can see here the creative makes the biggest impact. If you're going to sign off a large media budget, make sure you're across the creative work. So what can you all do to help media and creative thrive in your organizations or agencies? I'm going to give you 7 simple ideas now brought to life with some of the things we do at Specsavers to bring that to life for you. First and foremost, a founding principle of Rainey Kelly Campbell Rolfe that I used to work at. Ideas before advertising and ideas beyond advertising, I believe coined by M.T. Rainey. This guiding principle is with me every day. And what that really means is you need to create a big media-neutral idea and then execute from that. Not advertising first, and then stretch this idea into areas beyond traditional ad space. Should have gone to Specsavers as the embodiment of that. Here's something we made with ITV and Channel 4 that stretches beyond traditional ad space. This could have only been a reality by getting ITV and Channel 4, 2 rival TV stations, in the room together, working with our in-house creative team and media partners at Manning Gottlieb.
Next on ITV, Chester's most famous soap, Hollyoaks. Oh, that was definitely meant to read Manchester's most famous soap, Coronation Street. Should have gone to Specsavers.
Next up, untraditional placements can really act as an accelerator for your campaign. The nozzle talker in a petrol station is usually the preserve of a car insurance brand or an energy drink, not an optician, but this works perfectly for us as an extension of our Should Have Gone to Specsavers campaign, playing on the fact that people often put the wrong fuel in their car. Add unexpected placements with clever creative as part of your cross-channel media plan, and your brand instantly becomes more memorable. I also don't believe that cost should be a barrier. As Jeremy Bullmore once said, great work doesn't cost the earth. Disruptive and attention-grabbing work with media and creative at the heart can be really sort of cost-effective to deliver. This execution here that we ran in Edinburgh and Liverpool was relatively low in terms of cost in the grand scheme of our marketing budget. We created it by having the media team, creative team, and PR team working together. We could have just done this stunt and subsequently stayed quiet. However, sorry, let me get off. I've gone off my train there. We could have done this stunt and then just issued a press release to admit it was us, but we didn't. We stayed quiet for a while and let the national media and public do our bidding. It generated over 70 articles and made it onto This Morning, where Giles Brandwith was debating it in the review of the news. We also owe Dave from Edinburgh a few beers for getting us 674,000 likes on TikTok. Dave wasn't a creator or an influencer. He was just an ordinary member of the public that stumbled across this in the street.
Brilliant. Should have went to fucking Specsavers. Yeah, should have went to fucking Specsavers here. What a fucking brilliant, brilliant.
Dave, we owe you a beer. I also believe that you need to behave like a challenger brand. Just because you're the leader or an established player in your category, don't lose what got you there. Stay number one by acting like you're number two through behaving disruptively. Don't fall into the traps that big brands do, like creating silos or complexity in your marketing plans. I also believe that you need to use paid media to elevate PR and earned activity. Don't just create an earned campaign, boost it with paid media placements. This is where the magic can happen. This is our campaign for Best Worst Team, where we take a terrible football team and try to make them better. It was created by our social team and social agency, but we didn't stop there. We collaborated as a media team to bring in a Copper90 partnership, advanced stunts, murals, and paid YouTube placements. We've generated over 240 pieces of media coverage and over 2 million views on YouTube, with over 5 minutes watched for each video. This next one is a favorite of mine. Build that one-team mindset. I think this is critical for media and creatives to work together. Leave your egos at the door, ideate together, forget which agency you're from, forget the big reveal, and bring a marketing team in early to help shape the work. This reactive press ad that we did for a VAR story that was in the Metro was created in one day over WhatsApp with our social agency team, in-house creatives, the Metro and our media agency, all working together to get this out. That only works with a one-team mindset. Finally, now this sounds maybe a little trite, but you should be briefing for media that's as creative as the creative. If creative quality can multiply your media budget, bold and surprising media can multiply engagement levels. That's why an integrated campaign shouldn't just be built around reach and efficiency. Of course, that's important, but you shouldn't be defining yourself by it. The element of surprise that it produces is equally important. Surprise is one of our 7 universal emotions, and often that element is anchored in the creative work and the messaging, not the medium or the media. Make sure you're briefing for media and creative. So in summary, I will leave you with this thought. Media needs creative, and creative needs media to create better attention for your brand. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've got a little time for some questions.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Ian. That was. We've been thinking mainly about thank you for looking, but now we have thank you for listening as well, which is very good. There have been a couple of questions on the Slido. Thank you very much for your contributions. One thing is about we all say that we should work together, bring creative and media together.
Yeah.
But you actually, and you did mention it a bit, but it's more about culture. How do you create a culture where you do? Because you put it on a PowerPoint saying make creative agency and make it media agency work together. But how do you do it?
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's not easy. I'm not gonna, I've spent a long time working at it. It's not an easy thing to do. I think what we've tried to do is create a contract between our teams, and we've got a shared ambition and a shared goal. So that's one of the main things that we do at Specsavers is up front agree what we want to achieve collectively as a group to try and make that reality.
And is that you, the client, going to the agency saying, I'm here to make sure you work together, or do you put the responsibility on the agency
we have to make it work as well. We also have the benefit, we're very lucky, we've got 100 people that work in our in-house agency, so we do a lot of the creative in-house, and then we haven't got a complex roster. We work with Golin, who do our PR, Tangerine, who do our social, and Manning Gottlieb, who do our media. So we have a relatively small ecosystem, so that does make it easier.
And it takes the ego out of it as well.
That's it.
And then there's a second question here about the results.
Yeah.
Now, you see a lot of Specsavers shops around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously working.
Yeah.
But how do you? Again, I suppose the question was really about how do you work out the relative contributions of the media agency and the PR agency.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a negative way of putting it. But,
yeah.
But how do you know that this high attention earned media approach is working?
Yeah, through a number of different ways, really. So we've got different data coming into the team. So we use econometrics a lot more on the paid media. I wouldn't want to be judging some of the more activation type stunts through econometrics. So we have to be really clear with stakeholders what econometrics does versus other metrics. We use a really good brand tracker as well. So then we're looking for lifts there. And then things like about the amount of, for example, with Best West team, 240 articles generated. We're on this morning. We're on the ITV News. We're quite happy with that.
You've just got to believe that that's
going to work. You've got to believe it. Yeah.
Exactly. I can remember working on some sort of PR-led things, and you go, "What's the ROI going to be on this?" And you go, "Oh, fuck off."
Yeah.
This is obviously going to work. Come on.
It's a leap of faith. The ad van went way beyond our wildest dreams. We didn't think that was going to explode in the way it did. It went gangbusters on a Saturday evening into Sunday. It was everywhere. Front page, Daily Mail, online.
Yeah, and presumably there have been ones that haven't worked quite as well, and we can.
Sorry, just say that again.
Presumably there have been other stunts that haven't worked quite as well, but you have to take the wins.
Yeah, that's it. Take the wins and the losses, and it's also don't overdo it. We could go to town on this every day, but we have a gap between doing it. So the posters that you saw at the beginning with the ladder, before we did sort of something else like that, was a 2-year gap. But so it's just about making sure you're spacing things out and not trying to cram it all in together as well.
Well, literally an unfair share of attention there, and some. So Ian is going to be hanging around afterwards. So if you want to ask some questions, he'll be around probably by the System 1 thing. But guys, everyone, a round of applause for Ian Maybank. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.